Hello, this is Annette with Project Refine Life. Welcome to my channel and my November 2022 wrap up. So November marks Dia de los Muertos celebration for me, and this is an extremely important time. This is the time where I honor my ancestors, those who have passed, those that I miss, and celebrate their lives by establishing this beautiful ofrenda in my living room and putting their pictures on it. I only keep our immediate families in here because we both have really big families, and I would have to cover my entire living room with ancestor pictures if I put everybody's up. It's a really deep and beautiful time. It is not a sad time, it's a gorgeous time. And one of the things that I offer on my ofrenda is pan de muerto. And I kind of wanted to bring your attention to pan de muerto because it's such a beautiful and symbolic bread that I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. This bread that comes in this round shape is scented and taste of orange blossoms and anise. And it's a beautiful, like spongy bread, but not too sweet. It's just perfect. I love that about pan dulce. It's never too sweet. It's really a great tasting bread. And then when you combine it with a good cup of Mexican hot chocolate, it is so good. So when I'm speaking of Mexican hot chocolate, I'm not speaking of cacao. I'm talking about Mexican hot chocolate, and it's really good. You normally place some on the altar for your loved ones, and then you gather around and you have it as well. And it's just beautiful. It's just a wonderful way of honoring them. So now the pan de muerto, what I wanted to bring your attention to is the shape, the symbology of the bread. So if you look at the shape of the bread, it's in a circle, and that represents the circle of life and death. There's usually a ball on the top, unless it's been bumped off because somebody was rough with the bread, but that represents the skull of the deceased. And then across the bread, there are shapes that signify bones. Now, usually it's covered with sugar or sometimes sesame seeds. And the sesame seeds, and specifically, more than the sugar, represent the tears of the souls who have not found rest yet. Now, also in regard to the bones or the shapes that go across the pan de muerto, it also represents the 4 cardinal points of each Aztec god. So one of the gods represents light and wind, the other god represents death and rebirth, the other rain and storms, and the other represents darkness and sorcery. So it is really a cool bread when you come to understand the symbology of the bread. Things that we were watching this month. We watched the Netflix series Wednesday, and it was really good. We finished the entire series in 2 days. So Thanksgiving and the Friday after, we were all here at home. We just did a whole binge series with Wednesday, and it was really good. I really enjoyed that series, and they had some really cool music in there, some throwbacks to the 80s and stuff, so it was cool. Now, as far as videos are concerned, I did see a video by Ascension Waves entitled How I Work with My Shamanic Tarot Decks, and she laid out some of her tarot and oracle decks and how she works with these decks to bring forth these shamanic practices and concepts, and it's just fantastic. All right, so as far as books are concerned, I am still reading this book right here, which is The 100 Years of Solitude. This is a lengthy book, but more than it being lengthy, I really need to focus when I'm reading this book or listening to the book, because as you can see here, this comes with a little family line here, because over the generations or over the span of 100 years, you're dealing with this family. And Jose Arcadio Buendia starts here, but as you can see, the name repeats again and again and again, and the timelines are parallel. They keep going back and forth with some of the stories, and I get a little lost sometimes when I'm listening to it, and even when I'm reading it. If my mind wanders just a little bit, I really have to draw myself back in. If you look up this book on YouTube, you will find a lot of videos explaining the book or trying to explain the book. So I think I might have to return this book to the library soon. So I'm probably just going to have to buy a copy of it because I do want to finish the book and it's an important piece of literature. So I am dedicated to finishing that book. Now this book right here came in right at the end of the month, The Mexican Witch Lifestyle, and I did pretty much finish it with the exception of one little area here at the back, which I'll describe in just a moment. But it's called The Mexican Witch Lifestyle, Brujeria, Spells, Tarot, and Crystal Magic by Valeria Relas, I think. I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly or not. But this book, you know, I try to support. So this book it's cool. If you are new to brujeria or want to understand some of these concepts, it's a really cool book. It gives you brief conversations about all of these things. So botánicas, hierbarias, mercados, building your altar, preparing your altar space, how to do a spell, how to use magic words, pre-ritual herbal nasal steams, hierba readings with tea, obsidian dagger preparations, so how to prepare your tools. Limpias, it gives you a brief conversation about limpias as well, which was pretty good as far as, you know, their brief conversations, but she covered a lot within a little space and it was a pretty good conversation, quick conversation, kind of touches on it lightly, but it was pretty good. And then also how to charge the object and give it purpose, working with nature, how to recite magic words, obsidian mirror training, which I was a little impressed by. It was, again, a brief description of working with the obsidian mirror. I would say if you truly want to work with the obsidian mirror, I would look up Sergio Magaña because his concept of the way of working with the obsidian mirror is a little bit different, but it really is great work for you to do. And you just got to be ready for it because sometimes what you see is a little alarming, but it was a good brief explanation on obsidian mirror training. Fixing your energy with crystals and candle spells. She talks a little bit about the tarot, working with the tarot deck. And to be honest, some of her explanations here are better than what you receive with most tarot decks. So they're pretty good explanations of working with the tarot and the meaning of the cards. She also covers how to work with hierbas, candle magic, candle and crystal spells for common problems. Lifestyle spells, so she gets into a lot of spells. She describes some of the recipes that she works, protection oils, crystals, that type of thing. And then she gets into the Santa Muerte. She dedicates 20 pages to the Santa Muerte, which I have to be honest, that is the one section that I did not finish, but just looking over it briefly, she does go into a quick conversation about the Santa Muerte, but enough detail to kind of get a little bit deeper of an understanding if you're curious about working with the Santa Muerte. I would, if you're curious about brujeria to begin with, then I would suggest this book as far as learning basic concepts and then maybe taking it a little bit further with some further reading. But this is a great little book. It's nice because everything's all here. I like it when books just contain a little bit of everything and they're all right there, like in one little, oh, let me, like, you know, I forgot about this. Let me look it up. This is a quick little way of doing that. Okay, as far as VRs are concerned, I did 3 VRs this month, playing with pairs, a VR to Don Michelle, Boho Tarot, where I introduced 7 of my newest tarot and oracle decks to some of my older friends here in my collection. I did the Tarot Anti-Bucket List, which was a VR to Amy at Strength Reversed, talking about all the things that I do not want to include in my tarot practice. And that was kind of like a cool video to do, to just discuss the things I don't want to do. And then finally, I did the Only 10 Mass Market decks, a VR to Meg at Rose Honey Ritual and Thea over at Garden Goddess Tarot, which is a rehash of the Only 10 decks, but the mass market edition. And it does make me think, like, which 10 decks would I absolutely take? If I could only take 10, which would they be? So you might want to check those out. So now, as far as the decks, the thing that everybody wants to see, if you really want to know what I was working with, I would suggest going to Playing with Pairs, the VR to Dawn Michelle, because that's where I covered everything that I worked with, and it was a lot. I am going to just briefly highlight the ones that I worked with the most. Since I was doing that ancestral work this month, El Camino Oracle, Ancestral Wisdom for the Journey, along with the Gentle Tarot, was a fantastic little pairing. I have a complete walkthrough of the El Camino Oracle on my channel if you want to know more about the deck, but it was a really nice pairing with these two. Not only do they look great together, but they're both very nice decks, especially when working with the concepts of ancestral work and trying to bridge together the old, or where you come from, with the new, and trying to receive some of that guidance. They were really, really nice together. I really did like some of the answers that I received in working with this. And if you saw that video, you will know that this was the deck that I worked with for Dia de los Muertos, alongside, I forgot to mention this book here, which had a spread for Dia de los Muertos, which when I got this book, I thought, oh, well, this is clever. But anyhow, it was a really cool thing to work with during this time. That book, that particular chapter for November, and then also using these two decks together. Another deck that I worked with alongside the Gentle Tarot was the Song of the Grandmother's Oracle. And this deck had a very beautiful and compassionate voice while doing that ancestral work as well. So I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that this came in the timing that it did, because I was able to do some of that work. And again, with the Gentle Tarot. Now, I had not previously worked, I don't think, with the Gentle Tarot as far as ancestral work. So tuning into this deck in that capacity was pretty cool, and I really did like working with it. And again, the voice of these two decks together is so gentle, so soothing, so loving. I really did enjoy these two together. Another combination that I worked with together, Jonasa and the Woodland Wardens, worked very well together. And also, just working with these two in general, as far as the theme for the month and the colors that present themselves from these two decks, was really nice. I really like the way that these two paired up together. I like the overall messages that I was receiving from the two. The color combinations were just gorgeous, and it was just a really cool experience working with these two together. I really didn't expect that these two would work, but they did, and it's kind of exciting to have something to pair up with the Jonasa. I'm not going to bring these three out again, because I feel like I keep showing these three decks over and over again, but this trio has not left my side. It stays right on the side of my desk. I love working with these three together. With the work that I do, the energy archaeology is become like pivotal for my work. And then also the Death Doula is just amazing, and another transformational deck that's just amazing. I did a full walkthrough on this deck, beautiful. And the Somnia Tarot, again, was just really so touching. These three are amazing together. So I'm not going to show the three together because I've shown them a lot. Now, even though I didn't show those three together, I am going to show you the Death Doula along with the Wayhome Tarot. The Wayhome Tarot, even though it wasn't like highlighted as one of my newer decks and pairing up the old with the new, it is pretty new to my collection overall. So I did pair these two up, and it is in that video, the pairing video, but these two worked really well together. I really like the voice together of the two, and the Wayhome Tarot kind of, in a sense, brought a different light to the Death Doula Oracle, which I did enjoy. I really, really love this deck. It is an amazing deck. The Death Doula Oracle is amazing. So these two were a really good combination together. This is another combination that I shared on my Playing with Pairs video, which is the Tarot of Strange Antlers, the Herbal Astrology, and the Moon deck. I worked with this on the new moon and they were beautiful. Again, I'm not going to share these three again because I just shared them on that video. One pairing that wasn't on the video that I did work with for the dark moon was the Sacred Symbols Oracle deck along with the Dark Goddess Tarot. And I really did like these two together. The Dark Goddess Tarot is one of my decks that I pull out for my work on the dark moon, and they worked so well together. The Dark Goddess is a more in-depth study if you're using the guidebook, and why wouldn't you? Because it's amazing, but they worked really beautifully together. I had an amazing reading with these two. So that was for my dark moon work. Now, one more deck that I worked with this month, but this deck came in right before I did my Playing with Pairs VR to Dawn Michelle. And to be honest, I didn't know if I wanted to include this deck in that conversation or not, because I ordered the deck and I thought it was a little weird. And my husband offered to buy me a deck, and I had kind of been eyeballing this deck. But when I'm eyeballing a deck, I try to not pay attention too much to the deck itself. Like if I see the deck and I'm like, oh, that looks kind of cool, I'm not gonna watch too many walkthroughs and I'm not gonna, you know, really get into it. But after I ordered the deck, I can't remember why, but I went and I looked at the website and I was like, oh my goodness, what did I do? But I started working with the deck and it's pretty cool. So that is the Moonlit Hermit Tarot. And if you want to see a walkthrough, go ahead and leave a remark down in the comments and I will put one together if you're interested. So that is my November 2022 monthly wrap up. I am so grateful for you guys. Thank you so much for watching my videos, for commenting, and for just making this a beautiful little community that we're gathering here.